All right, so today is day 5 of my sourdough starter. I have removed half, discarded half because I am on day 5 and you don't want to keep anything. You want to discard half every day for the first 7 days because you need all the good stuff to do its thing and grow and create your sourdough starter. So I removed half of that. I'm going to add 1 cup of room temperature or warm water, and then I'm going to add 1 cup of flour, and then I'm going to mix it well. So I have this little tab right here that I'm marking the level it is when I feed it. And this one I'm feeding every day for 7 days. So I remove half of it and then I add 1 cup of room temperature or warm water and 1 cup of flour every day. So what you want to do is you want to try to make sure that you get the lumps out, so that way they can ferment and do their things. So fermentation, when you ferment different types of foods, you can do vegetables and different things, including sourdough bread, is good for gut health. And it helps balance everything in your gut, making you feel better. So I've got a little stuck on the back of the spatula. I'm going to scrape it off. I think I'm going to switch out my spoon because see how that one has it sticks up here. This one's a little bit flatter. So that way I can smash the clumps of flour against the side a little bit better here. Yeah, so basically this is all you got to do for 7 days. Remove half. Some people measure in ounces how much water that they use. So like if you discard half of this, you would weigh out how much you have and then add that much water and flour to it daily. I'm hoping, let's see, there's still a few more clumps in here. Takes a little minute, but you want to get it mixed well. It doesn't really take too long, not really. So the reason I'm using this big jar is because once I get past the 7 days of the starter, I can then start increasing the amount that I have in here so that I can use it for more breads and things like that I want to make. That's the plan anyway. So I got it all up on the sides. I'm going to try to scrape it down the sides a little bit here just to kind of clean it up a little bit, right? There we go. It's not going to be perfect. You can take like a washcloth or a napkin and go inside and wipe it out if you choose to. I do that usually. Okay, so some people use rubber bands. You can use a rubber band that will fit around your jar, and you want to put it like right where the level of liquid is. The top of it's right there, and that'll tell you if it's growing or not. And you should see bubbles coming up. You can put a metal lid or any type of a lid on here, but when you do that, you're just going to want to set your lid on top. I'm putting a coffee filter and a rubber band so that way it can breathe. If you do a tight lid, it could cause it to make like a gas, and that wouldn't be good. So you want it to have a little bit of air so it can breathe, and you want to keep out any fruit flies or whatnot that might be about. So there you go. And then tomorrow, today's day 7 for that. So there we go. There's my sourdough starter for day 5. Hi, welcome to Milk and Honey Heritage Farms. I'm Heather, and I'm doing a collaboration with Mountain Grandma and Yogi Hollow Farms doing a sourdough starter. So today I'm going to take you through the steps of showing you how I use my starter to make some bread. And so right now my recipe calls for, I'm going to get you in here, 5 to 6 cups of sifted flour. So when you do sifted flour, this is what I use to sift the flour. If you can see that, you turn this little handle and it makes it more fluffy and airy, so hopefully you get a fluffier, airier bread. So that's what I'm going to do, is do, the recipe calls 5 to 6 cups, but I'm gonna just go ahead and do 6 cups, because it is kind of a colder day. Sometimes when it's colder weather and you're baking breads, sometimes it's cooler in the house, so you'll have to use more flour for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish my 6 cups of sifting flour, and then I will take you to the next step. All right, so right now what I'm doing is I'm getting 2 cups of my starter. Let's see if I can fit my cup in there. And I'm going to put it in my stand mixer. You can do this by hand as well. 1. Oops. 2. So I've got 2 cups of my starter in there. I'm going to set the scooper aside. All right, and then I'm going to slowly add in 1 cup at a time of flour into the mixer. I'm going to start off, I sifted the flour first off. There's 1 cup. I'm going to lower this down, lock it into place, and you're going to start off slow. I'm going to grab 1.5 cups of water. One and a half cups of water. Another cup of flour. I'm at 2 cups of flour. I'm assuming I'm going to have to use all 6 because it's a pretty cold day. You never know, you just have to watch. Lock it into place. My recipe says to add a 1/4 cup of honey. Look at that goodness. Looks good. Yummy. Okay. I'm going to add another cup of flour into here. As I add my other ingredients, I'm just going to keep adding a little bit of flour at a time so it gets mixed up nice. Lock it into place. Low setting. Okay, now I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of kosher salt. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to be adding in 6 tablespoons of melted butter into the same mixing bowl, and 1 fresh egg or store-bought egg, whichever you have available to you. I'm also going to do another cup of flour to the mixture. Lock it into place. The reason why you slowly add the flour is so that it hopefully stays nice and fluffy. And I'll take you back when I'm done adding all the flour, and I'll show you what that looks like in the next step. All right, so I got all of my flour added into my mixing bowl of sourdough starter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out on a lightly floured countertop, clean countertop. This all out. When you're mixing, it shouldn't really stick to the sides too much. And set my bowl aside, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly flour my hands, and then I'm going to knead this a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm going to just keep folding my bread under. I'm not going to knead it too much because I'm going to do a second rise. So in that same mixing bowl for my mixer, I'm going to put a splash of olive oil in the bottom, swirl it around, take your bread dough, and I just fold the sides under like that. And then I'm going to plop it in there, and I'm going to spin it around a few times. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lightly moistened cloth, like this, set it over the top. Now I have not baked my own sourdough starter bread, but I have done bread. I just use, you can cover the top with saran wrap or whatever works best for you. Whatever you have in your kitchen, just kind of keeps the heat inside and a little bit of moisture, because I dampened this towel just a tad bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it in my oven for a few hours, because it is sourdough. It takes longer to rise than if you were just doing fresh homemade bread. It usually only takes 30 minutes. I'll take you along later on and show you how I make a different recipe of regular bread. But this has to rise for a couple of hours in the oven with the light on, and I'll bring you back when it's time to bake it. So while I'm got my sourdough bread doing a rise in the oven with the oven light on, I thought I'd show you how I'm going to get ready my bread bowl. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use rice. So I don't have any rice flour, so I'm making my own, and I'm using this magic bullet. I put some rice in here, and you just grind it up and make your own flour. And then what you're going to do is you're going to coat the inside of this, and it helps so that when you're getting bread to rise in it, it doesn't stick to it. So I'm going to use this little tea thing, and I'm going to put the rice flour in here, and I'm going to sprinkle it all around the sides, and then I'm going to dump the excess into, I'll just dump it on this cloth, and then I can get rid of the rest. Anyways, so there you go, rice flour, coating that, and then I'll end up putting my bread in there to do a second rising. that's just an idea for you if you'd like. All right, I'm going to check the sourdough bread that's been sitting in my oven just with the light on. I'm going to check to see the consistency of it. And if you poke it, see, and it rises back real fast, that means it's still got more rise time. If you poke it and it stays dented in and it doesn't pop back up, that means it's done rising. But it pops up pretty quickly. So I'm going to put my cover back on and keep it in the oven for a bit longer and check it in maybe about an hour. All right, so I've had my sourdough starter rising in the oven with the oven light on for 3 hours now. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push it down and I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on a clean counter to help from sticking. And I'm going to scrape this out of the bowl. And I'm going to divide it into half. I'm going to knead it a little bit. And I'm just folding the edges under. And then I'm going to divide it in half. Set this one aside. And then I'm just going to keep folding the sides under. And then just before I stuck my sourdough starter in the oven to rise, I took my bread bowl and I rinsed it lightly with water, shook the extra water off, and I ground up some rice into rice flour and I coated the inside of this. And then what I'm going to do is I've formed a ball, and I'm going to place my ball right there. And what the rice flour does is it helps so it doesn't stick inside of the basket. Hopefully, that's the goal. And then this one, same thing, but I'm going to put it in a different type of a pan. And I'm going to stick these in the oven for another 2 to 3 hours for it to rise. What you want to look for is a rise of double the size. I'm going to use this baking pan. I'm going to put some oil in it so it doesn't stick. Just a little bit, not too much. And I'm just going to kind of, you can use a napkin if you want to. My hands are already, you know, touching the dough, so not a big deal. You want to get all the edges and the corners and the sides with a little bit of oil to help from sticking, okay? And we've just folded the sides down, and I'm going to make it into like an oblong, rectangular, kind of loaf-looking bread, and I'm going to put that in there just like that, and I'm going to put both of these in the oven with it off and the light on for another 3 hours so it can rise to double its size. And then this one I'll end up taking out and putting on a baking sheet. So I'll see you when we come to the next step.